I see two ways, right? So number one, a lot of people take hobbies and passions, and just because they love it, they think that it's going to turn into a business, and then somebody else is going to love it, right? You got to go through that process of saying, hey, is somebody actually do they need this, and can I exchange value for it more than what it costs me to do it?
Yeah.
And then from there, you get to a point where does this product offer like these pillars of that I'm promising, regardless of it might not be 100% finished, right? So, for example, my pillars when I got into this business was I'm going to create a product that has the best quality print because it gives customers leverage to charge more, low maintenance, and the lowest cost of operation, right? By transforming how this whole ink game was done in the past, right? So I chose those three pillars. And then as soon as I got a great print at a low price, and the machine kept running enough for people to make money, then that's when I'm like, all right, I need to find somebody that will buy it, and then they will have success, right? So that's kind of the main factor. Can it do the minimum that somebody would need to make money? Then you can build from there. I'm part of a big family, so it's 6 kids, 2 adults. So my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So whenever you come home from school, you gotta eat. You gotta eat at the same time. So you just sit around the table, and that's kind of how the childhood was when it came to dinner time. So sometimes it was chill, sometimes it was chaos. But that's how it is. With like a immigrant family coming from Mexico, and then just having some of that family dinner time stuff set up from before with the culture. That's kind of how it was.
Yeah, very cool. And were you born here, or did you immigrate as well? Or
yeah, I immigrated as well. I came around 6 or 7.
Okay.
Yep. 6 or 7 years old. No English. Just new country.
Yeah. What take yourself back to that. What was that like, coming in where, you didn't know anyone, and you didn't know any English, you're leaving people you knew behind. What was that like, going through that at such a young age?
Yeah, it's actually a big source of like what you really think about right now is hard work versus what's real hard work, right? The reality is for a kid at those times, we're looking at what that was 87, right? Okay. I'm born in 1980, 87-ish is when 86, 87, right?
Yep.
So it's brutal. Why? Because you don't speak the language. You're in a immediately in school, and you gotta make it happen.
Yeah.
Bottom line, you gotta make it happen at that age, and then there is no information or guidebook for those parents back in the day. So, they just did whatever they could to make it happen and keep food on the table.
Yeah.
So and for that many kids, right? So. And from there, it's like you gotta figure out, all right, I gotta make some new friends. I gotta learn this language.
Yeah.
And then just do it as fast as possible.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And obviously that probably gave you a very, very strong foundation that, you've drawn on over the years, in your entrepreneurial journey. Would you say that impacted your approach to life and what you were going to do with your life and whatnot, sort of seeing
that's a great question. So I think that a lot of that stuff is formed around those ages, right? So just to give you an example, what lately I've been doing speaking gigs and been on a whole bunch of shows, and the idea is like they're like, hey, you better pull some stories of your past. And I'm like, well, I don't remember anything, right? So then you got to be intentional starting to remember. But one of the stories, and I'll preface it with this, is that like you don't know what's good when you're doing it.
Yeah.
And especially if you don't have some sort of way to relate it to something else, right? So I had been in the States for a few months, and there was a speech contest. And the idea was, it first started in the school. It was about like, what do you want to do when you grow up, right? And I remember that literally I was fluent in 2 months, right? But I thought that's just, hey, that's what you got to do, right? And I ended up taking first place at the school for the speech. I don't know if it's because I said I wanted to be a teacher, right? So there was some good marketing in the speech. But then what happened later is we went to like the Orange County finals, and then I took first place there. And then next was the state finals. It was in LA, right? It was like at some Dumpy Radisson, and I thought it was like, wow, look at this spectacular place. Never been there. And I ended up taking second place there. And what I remember was like, damn, like this kid, he was great. He had all this presentation thing. He like moved his hands and all that. The kid did great. And I thought, hey, damn, I sucked big time. This is like, I had no idea of like first place, second place, third place, whatever. I had no idea that to relate to, hey, I just got here a few months back.
Yeah.
And so you think like, damn, I really failed at that time, right? You go back with your tail between your legs. And then my folks tried, but then that like thinking back, I'm like, damn, that was actually not that bad of a failure. But it teaches you that feeling that you get in your gut of failing. So right now, I don't see that much in a lot of like kids. Everybody tries to protect them. A lot of people haven't failed yet. I see that with like new younger employees. They've had that participation trophies.
Exactly.
They never got picked up last at the dodgeball. And so I recall that kind of stuff, and you're like, hey, you know what? Those lessons teach you to be like, hey, you know what? I don't like it, and I'm gonna do something different on the next one, so I don't feel that way, right? So that's the kind of a story I just remembered recently, because my folks brought it up because they found the first place award. And McDonald's is the one who paid for all these. They ran the gig, right? Yeah. And insult to injury, I went up on stage after losing, so Ronald McDonald could do his trick and pull out my underwear, on the and all that stuff.
They would never do that. They would never do that today.
No way, dude. No way.
That kid would be, he'd be shamed for life, right?
Yep.
That's funny. That is funny.
So yeah, it was like remember that time? Oh yeah, I remember. Those are one of the early on stories,
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, and again, so we've obviously interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs, and every single one of them, basically focuses in on their failures and what they've learned from all those failures. And again, the problem is the people growing up today, they've got an excuse for every time when they could be put in those positions to be able to fail, right? I mean, there's, I'm being shamed, or I'm being, you're I forget some of the terms that they use, but you're picking on me. It's just, you got to go through those pain points to be able to learn about yourself and how to handle it the next time that, that comes up, so
100%.
yeah. Okay, so we'll shift here a little bit now. So this is one of the questions that I wanted to use, sort of as a setup that we'll stitch in later. If you could just, finish this sentence. So I'm Victor Pena and I do this, or just basically the question is, here's who I am and what I do. So just answer that question.
Yeah, I love it. So my name is Victor Pena, and I empower business owners globally to thrive and win with print on demand and e-commerce. And what that means is look at big brands that create t-shirts and they create clothing brands, all the way down to Mama Two running an Etsy store out of her house, printing its wine o'clock shirts and killing. So that inspires me to keep growing. And the vision is to be $1 billion organization with 3,000 team members helping millions of creators out there. So looking forward to bringing some value today.
I love it. I love it. And I love that you already have, where you want to go, and you've worked that right into that, that opening phrase there as well. So important to know where you want to go. So what got you into this business in the first place? How did you find this market, or did you have a need yourself that you started, or?
Yeah. So, I was, my schooling is engineering for electronics and computers, right? So I was involved in tech. If you go to a hotel and you use the printers downstairs and you pay an arm and a leg for a copy or a print, or in the room for your internet, you're welcome for that technology. It's part of the development that I was involved with, like way back when there was the transition from dial-up to high speed.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I got into like the printer side, because we had to integrate into the print engines to pull out the copies or charge per page and charge per minute and all that stuff, right? So, it was never something that I thought of, right? Because back then tech was crazy and it's different, a lot of stuff changing. It's literally like where blockchain is now is where web and tech was then, right? But what I really liked about this space is that it's super hard to disrupt, but there's a lot of enhancements. There's a lot of technology that you can build into the printing industry that wasn't there, and still stuff that's not there, right? So that intrigued me. And I really love the part that every equipment that you sell, comes with inks, and it comes with service, it comes with supplies, because there's a long tail of that for your business, and you don't have to like be selling every single day just to make the nut. So there's a recurring aspect of it that I really loved about it. So that's kind of why I started in the venture.
Yeah. And when did you start it? How long ago was that?
I think we incorporated in 2008. I think started it's blurry now.
Yeah.
I always say like we've been in business 17, 18, 19 years, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think 2005 is when it got more serious.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Thinking back, like 2005 doesn't seem like that long ago. 2008 doesn't seem that long ago, and
right. Yep.
it was quite a while ago.
Tell me about it.
so what types of challenges did you run into when you were starting the company?
Yeah, I mean, in summary, all of them, right?
Yeah.
Every single challenge that you can come up with, I've ran into it, right? So that's why, like, the reality is, I have the unique perspective of being the first employee and running every single department, failing at the learning, and then still pushing forward, right? So at the beginning, I always say I'm a recovering engineer. So you try to build the best product, right? And you focus on, my product works the best, it's the best quality, blah, blah. But the reality is better known beats best. So if you could focus on what marketing campaigns, how you get people to know you, then that's number one. So those are some of the initial challenges. Like after actually getting the equipment built, being able to market it, that was a big challenge for me at the beginning. Getting it built is another one. I had to convince a manufacturer. I went to Korea, early 20s, and I'm thinking, hey, I had to pitch them on, like, I'm going to be your biggest customer ever. All I need you to do is build this equipment for me for free.
Yeah.
Let's just say that didn't go so well.
I was going to ask how that went.
But it turns out at the end of the day, I figured out a way to have them. They had some engines, they had some stuff, so I was able to kind of repurpose that stuff that they already had and build our own product. And it started from there. It started slow, and then slowly we became the only product that they make. So right now they still make about half of our volume, and then we manufacture the other half here.
Incredible. So, and when you were going through, negotiating with them, what was that turning point? Did they, you said that they had some engines and everything. At what point did they, come on and really start supporting you? Was it when obviously you started bringing in orders, but, I guess I'm just trying to figure out what that dynamic was, between that, we'll call it a fostering relationship, where you kind of came in and said, I'm going to be your biggest supplier, and then you ended up becoming that. What was that transition like, going through that process?
Yeah, that's a great point. So right now, like we're I'm a part owner of the factory now over there, and the transition was slow, right? They had big distributors that they were buying like their technology in containers, and I think like I ordered one,
right,
like 6 months, and then maybe another one in the next 6 months, right? So I looked at, man, these guys, they're over here shipping containers a month. That's huge, right? So, but slowly it turned into 5, and then turned into 10, and then it turned into, half a container, and then a full one, right? And then at a certain point, their capacity, they had to make a decision on the capacity because they couldn't build for both, right? And then it just so turns out the other distributors, they had a falling out, and the company went under. So we ended up being like their biggest customer, and I leaned into that. So from there, negotiating exclusivity and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
On the technology. So it was a slow burn. If you look at maybe sometimes you think, hey, it's been 18 years, right? But each of those years felt long. And there's a lot that went down,
How long would you say that it was from that initial, meeting with them to when you were, we'll say when you were being taken seriously, you started, creating those higher volumes? Because again, getting back to what we talked about in the beginning, I think so many people expect things to be done. Like we're in an immediate satisfaction economy, and everybody thinks that, I'm going to do this and tomorrow I'm going to have my results. What kind of time frame are you looking at there from, again, that initial meeting to when you were finally, one of the players that, that they stood up and recognized when you called?
Dude, it's so powerful what you're saying, because I see it all the time. A lot of entrepreneurs, they start, and if they're not like driving a Rolls Royce in 2 months,
right,
they're done, right? But you like big businesses, long-term businesses, traditional businesses where you're bringing value to a lot of people, they don't come like overnight.
Mhm.
No way. So uh, I think 2013, 2014 uh,
Mhm.
is when I actually had to. The reason I remember is because I finally had taxes due,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that means that every year you're barely making it, or you're like the non-paid employee of the group, right?
Yep. Yep.
And that's how it starts, right? So you got to push through all that, push through tons of the learning, tons of the failure, and then get to the point where you actually have a repeatable system for sales and marketing,
Mhm.
and you like can convince others to come and join the mission with you. You
Yep.
know.
Yep.
So yeah, it was a while.
Yeah.
A long.
8, 9 years, it sounds like. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
So
yeah.
when I mentor people, I always say, hey, look, be ready for 10 years.
Yeah. Yep. And now that you've established this business, what types of results have you gotten, not only in this business, but, we talked before about some of the other things that, you're into now as well. What types of results are you able to enjoy and, quite honestly brag about now, right? I mean, I know
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of people
definitely.
hate talking about themselves, but I mean, you've done it, you've achieved it. So what are some of those results?
Yeah. So one thing that I'm super passionate about is real estate. So
Mhm.
what I do is, I focus on like growing and building my business, and saving up, and then every time I go broke and I invest it all into a new multifamily apartment deal.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, and what that does is it creates, something else that you can focus on, but also you're actually getting really diligent when it comes to being an investor, and running a business like an investor versus an operator, right? So I do a lot of that, and it comes from me wanting to do it from a long time ago. Uh, Going back a little bit, most Mexicans, when we come over, we do construction growing
Yeah.
up, right? So what do? You go and you build stuff, you do remodels, you do new construction. I did that all through high school, paid for my college like that.
Mhm.
And I would see, like, I would work in a lot of flips. I would work in a lot of investment properties, and I was like, maybe doing their electrical or plumbing. And I would see the investor roll up. Normally, it's like I have this vision of this. One time, this guy, black Range Rover, he comes out, looking all sharp, hot wife, and he's showing her the place.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I'm about to flip this thing, or I'm about to make a cool 100 grand or 200 grand, whatever, right? And that stuck with me. And I'm like, dude, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Uh, and then like what you think is what you become,
Yep.
right? That's what I get from one of my mentors is reality, because I'm thinking I want to be that guy once where I'm rolling in, and I'm looking at my deal, and I'm like, hey, we're fixing this, we're fixing that, and our goal is to be at 1,000 units on multifamily,
Mhm.
and we're we'll get there.
Yeah.
My initial goal was just start.
Yep.
So, yeah, that I'm super passionate about that. Also, what I'm able to do is mentor others. We do a lot of free education. We do a lot of free stuff for our customers that are starting their entrepreneur journey.
Mhm.
The reality is, I'm just talking about stuff that I wish I'd known back then,
Yeah.
like my startup self, 2-3 years into it, that my scaling self, like what did I learn, what did I fail through, and then I
Mhm.
pour that back into people with educating. So these are the passions that fire me up now.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about, the startup mentality versus the scaling mentality. What are some of those things that you should expect at that initial stage, that will, help foster you and bolster you for, that next growth spurt. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, definitely. So at the beginning, it's a different stage, right? So you want to look at, like at the beginning, you want to, the technical term is like, do you have product market fit, right?
Mhm.
Or like, does anyone even want to buy the stuff in your brain that you think is going to be a huge business, right?
Mhm.
Number one. So you gotta nail that down. And while you're doing that, you gotta be frugal, right? You
Mhm.
gotta be like, thinking about how can I answer this question as fast as possible? Does anybody want what I'm selling?
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of things that people focus on is like, dude, I normally stop it right away when somebody's like, oh, I'm starting this business. I really, working with my developers to get the site colors, and I'm working on this logo and this branding. I'm working on these things and looking for office space and choosing the carpet and all that. And I'm like, dude, like that has nothing to do with
Yeah.
even building a business, right? First thing you got to do is, can you get one? Can you sell it? And then can you get that person that you sold it to tell someone else, so that they can buy it from you? And then can
Mhm.
you repeat that? Uh, and you might be the sales rep, you might be tech support, you're going to be warehouse, you're going to be accounting,
Mhm.
you're going to be the janitor. You're going to do that frugally, right? If you don't, then you're going to bust, right?
Yeah.
You're going to bust. So that's advice I have. Like, I focused a lot on that stuff back in the day, right? The wrong stuff. So I know what not to focus on when
Mhm.
I join a venture or I start something new.
Mhm.
But that's a big advice that anybody could take when building something.
Yeah, and obviously, so there's different levels to that, right? So, there's the minimum viable product as well,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
that's
Yep.
there's that type of terminology. How do you personally go about determining whether or not you have the MVP, the minimum viable product, so that that, okay, now we have this, we can sort of move to the next stage, right? Like, you mentioned you want to make sure that you can have somebody buy it and they'll tell somebody else about it, but you don't want to you don't want to over engineer that, over invest into whatever that thing is. So how do
No.
you go about drawing that line, saying, okay, we're going to go forward with this now, and see how that works?
Yeah, so I see two ways, right? So number one, a lot of people take hobbies and passions, and just because they love it, they think that it's going to turn into a business, and then somebody else is going to love it, right?
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm,
got to go through that process of saying, hey, is somebody actually, do they need this, and can I exchange value for it more than what it costs me to do it?
yeah,
Uh, and then from there, you get to a point where, does this product offer like these pillars of that I'm promising, regardless of it might not be 100% finished, right? So, for example, my pillars when I got into this business was, I'm going to create a product that has the best quality print because it gives customers leverage to charge more,
mm-hmm,
low maintenance, and the lowest cost of operation, right? By transforming how this whole ink game was done in the past, right? So I chose those three pillars. And then as soon as I got a great print at a low price, and the machine kept running enough for people to make money,
mm-hmm.
then that's when I'm like, all right, I need to find somebody that will buy it, and then they will have success, right? So that's kind of the main factor. Can it do the minimum that somebody would need to make money?
Mm-hmm.
Then you can build from there.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. And getting to the next stage, that scaling stage, how do you go about determining how much you can scale at any one time, right? Like, you might, in your case, you might have all of these orders, but you might not be able to finance the product, or there could be hurdles like that. How do you control that scale and scale correctly, and not try to scale too quickly where, you sort of get ahead of the market or ahead of the product, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's stuff that I educate myself on, that I have mentors that help me push through this part, right? So for example, at the beginning, your phase is like, it's about the what you do. And then from there, you have more break points that come based on the revenue that your company's making, right? So at some point, 3 to 5 million in revenue, it's all about who you do it with, right? And then when you're 10 million plus, it's about how you do it, right? Do you have the systems and the processes that can deliver the same quality at a high volume than you could if you did it on your own, right? So recognizing that every single business, regardless of what you do, has these same break points, then you could start thinking about it in advance. I could tell you because I didn't, right? I'm like, learn everything myself, push through, and you don't know what you don't know, and that's the most dangerous part, right? So anybody that's starting, you want to keep that in mind as you build ahead, so that you can say, hey, you know what, this big brick wall's coming. I know it's coming, so I'm gonna prepare. I'm gonna make sure my seatbelt's on, and then I could go around the brick wall and then find another path, right? Whereas if you don't know, you're just gonna straight run into it, and you're like, dude, I've run through walls before. I'm gonna push through this one, right? But there was an easier way.
Yep.
If you're more educated about it. So scaling means like making sure that your team and your company and your product and your systems are ready to take on more customers.
And I like that you mentioned, that you seek mentors and advice of other people that have been, through that before. And I feel like there's sometimes people that come into your life in that capacity, and you'll outgrow them, right? Their advice was valuable at one point, but you're now in this other stage of your growth. And have you ever been in a situation where you've had to distance yourself from a mentor because, again, their advice, their thoughts may not necessarily have been right for the position or the stage of growth that you're in?
Yeah. So amazing questions. So number one, like I've distanced myself from people, right, that don't have the thing. That's for sure, but not mentors. So mentors, my mentors I look for are like big in the mindset, big in the game. Like it's literally I'm like the small fish in the gargantuan pond in those, right? So it's hard. My real estate mentor is Grant Cardone. Built a good relationship with him over the past few years. Business, Brandon Dawson. These guys are beasts, right? To surpass them, to surpass their think, and actually their do is almost impossible, because they're fired up every single day, every single month to grow. They're not stagnant. They're not retired. They're not just chilling. Like every day they're doing something new. So it makes it harder, but also more inspiring to be like, okay, boom, like that's what, if I'm tired, I look at these guys, and they've been on a 20-day event run, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I'm not tired.
Yeah. Right.
So find mentors that have big think,
Yep.
so that you don't have to surpass them, I guess would be the biggest takeaway there.
And you brought up an amazing point there that I learned early on as well. I was following the advice of, it was actually a family member, and I started buying houses when I was very, very young. And, I looked up to them and thought that they were they had everything put together. And it wasn't until later on in life I realized that they basically were, living paycheck to paycheck, right? Or they were trying to, scrounge money as much as they could, and but they were presenting themselves as being very, very successful. So, picking out and choosing the mentors that you follow, you want to make sure that they have what it is that you want. And they're living the life that you want, because you're going to get the same results that they have realized. So looking up to the people that, you're constantly striving to keep up with, that's incredible. So, choosing those people and making sure that they have what you want is the defining factor there, I think, for defining who you should be following.
Yeah, big time. I'm very protective of my mindset, right? So I can't be around people that, fake the funk.
Yeah.
Can't be around people that have low aspirations, low mindset, negativity. I just don't do it.
Yep.
Because I'm protecting myself and being in a different level. Doesn't mean like, a lot of it's family, friends, acquaintances, that kind of stuff. Doesn't mean you don't love them, but it means that, you take small doses, and when negativity comes, you're out.
Yeah.
So,
completely agree. Completely agree.
And that's something I do. But at the same time, I do it where I'm like, hey, take a look at this video, take a look at this book, take a look at that, helping them push out, because a lot of them don't know they're doing it. Right. And I just never wanted to be in that situation where I needed stuff. There was more month at the end of the money, because that's how I grew up. Right. So the reality is, I always focused on being diligent of growth and investing instead of overspending. Because if you look at like being better than the Joneses, dude, the Joneses are in debt. The Joneses,
exactly.
Mercedes are 90 days past due. They haven't paid their mortgage in 6 months. Like, that's the Joneses, right?
Yep.
And I saw that, especially through 2008, 9, 10. That's when I put my foot on the gas, and everybody was, focused on like, can they stay in their luxury lifestyle, right? So I look at it a different perspective, and because I want the first. So the first is now an exciting time, because that's when a whole bunch of rents come in, and that's when we close them up in the business, and it's all celebration. And I wanted it designed that way because, growing up, the first was scary, right? Hey,
everything was due at that time.
All pitch in. The bills are due, rent's due. We all got to pitch in. That was the first. Right?
That is so interesting. I've never thought of that perspective before, but you're absolutely right. How that's shifted now. That's really interesting.
Yeah. So I don't think anybody likes that stress of the first when you're on the wrong side of it.
Yeah. Be on the right side of the first. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That's a good one.
I love it. What would you say are some of the common mistakes that you see people making as they're scaling their company? Anything come to mind?
Yeah. So I think not having the right people on the right seats, or not having a vision where you want to go. It's probably bigger than that, because let's say you just say, hey, we just want to sell a whole bunch of stuff and make a lot of money, right? That gets you through a few years, a few break points, because everybody's just trying to get out of scarcity, right? But after that, like, what are you really getting up out of bed for? You got to be super clear about that. What's that long game vision? That's why I spent some time on doing that. I wish I would have done it before, but we did it a few years back, and it's been game changer. So what's the mission? Why are we all here? Where are we going? That's the vision. And then what are the 6 core values that we live by as a team every single day? And all that stuff's on the biggest walls here in our headquarters, so that people don't forget. So if you could do that earlier on, I get that would be like the top advice, because it's foundational to where you want to go. It's foundational, or it's like the biggest inspiration when you're hiring people.
Yeah.
And letting them know if they join you, this is the mission they're getting on, and it'll inspire people to do that. So if you could do that while you're scaling, then the logistics issues and the finance issues and the people issues, all that stuff works itself out, because you're in a solid foundation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And so many people, slough off the going through and doing your core values and establishing, like, I mean, I commented on that. That was, one of the first things that you mentioned was, where you want to take the company, what the goal is. We have a BHAG as well, and that's to change the world one community at a time, one member at a time. Again, referencing the real estate side of things. So powerful when you set that goal that you're, wrapping everything else around and, striving to achieve that. So, couldn't agree more. Victor, this has been fantastic. If people want to learn more about you, your products, your services, what would be the best way to reach out and get in touch?
Yeah, definitely. So, I'm active on all platforms. So, the business you can reach at Omniprint International everywhere. A lot of education on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe there. My personal Instagram, Victor_H_Pena. And there I post about everything, lifestyle, mindset, real estate, business, all that stuff. So plug in and, reach out if I could be a help in any of those things.
I love it. I love it. Love the energy. Love everything that you've done. Love hearing the success that you've had, and the foundations that you established early on in your life, and kind of use those as guiding beacons to get where you are today. So congrats for everything that you've done, and look forward to learning more from you.
Love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on. And I told you the intention is to bring value, right? So I'm gonna record and get you guys on Instagram.
Sounds good.
So make sure that you're there so that you can get the value. And like I said, I really appreciate you having me on. Hopefully it brings a lot of value to the community out there.
I know it will. I know it will. Thanks, Victor.
Thank you.